So we had a conversation a while ago about the transition from steam to electricity. And that stuck in my mind because it seems to have, it's such a great metaphor for what's happening now, almost. And the story goes that for the people who had built factories on steam, it never made sense to change to electricity. There was never an economic reason because they always looked at the incremental cost. What's the cost of changing versus the incremental sales or whatever. Of course, all it will do is put their costs up in the short term, and they're still making the same product. So will they sell more of it? But the difference came when the new factories built from the ground up using electricity. Suddenly, they could work 24 hours a day. They were on off. They could shut down bits that didn't matter, and their efficiencies put the steam out of business.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. But and had the problem itself not changed, then steam versus electricity, you would have had that argument forever. Which one is better? And it would have been probably marginal, have been a choice. So, for instance, and the same thing happens. Let's say, look at electric cars right now. Electric car versus a petrol car. Well, it's a choice. It's maybe not quite as good, or maybe it's a bit better, or I'm not entirely sure. But it look, it's not an obvious choice to make. The same thing happened with steam and electricity empowering factories. And the reason that electricity became dominant was not because to solve the same problem that the steam factories were solving, it was any better. It enabled a different problem to be solved. And that was the problem which was closer to what people wanted. So you ended up with shorter runs of whatever they were manufacturing, different varieties of it, because you could run a machine, reconfigure a machine in different ways. You could have a factory who did, instead of one product really well, did 100 products really well, one corner of the factory doing one thing, one corner of the factory doing another thing, and they could stop and start the production lines at different times. So you ended up with a different output, which was more valuable than the output, relatively speaking, from the steam factory.
So question, so did the people who built the electricity factories know that was the case at the time, or were they able to better adapt when the need came, such that it put the steam out? So phrased slightly differently, was that incorporated in their business models? And did the people with steam just completely forget to incorporate that? Or did neither know at the time, and then suddenly like an evolutionary force came, and suddenly the ones that could adapt were the electric ones?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. It depends who you ask. I mean, I think if you ask Elon Musk what he thinks about electric cars, I bet his vision goes a lot further than Tesla. That would be my guess, and probably extends beyond what is reasonable, probably. So, but if you look at something that has, if you look at a steam factory, you look at it, and you probably found, at the turn of the century or before, it had literally run out of steam. It got to where it could get to, right? And you looked at the electric factory, and you probably went, "There's a world of possibilities here. I don't know what they are, but we're only at the start of this. It can move in lots of different directions. I don't quite know where it's going to go, but I think we understand steam well enough that we've got it going as far as it's going to go." Therefore, some people would have made that move to electric, going, "Well, why not? It's something that's different. Maybe I could make a factory in a location that I couldn't do before, because maybe I don't need the same, the same natural resources around it. So maybe that's why I did it. But once I've got it, then we can start to look at different ways that we can use this. And then suddenly I can take opportunities, the marginal opportunities that wouldn't have worked for steam. Could you do me, 2,000 of this unit? Well, actually, yes, I can. Whereas a steam factory would, no, I can't. I can only do 2 million units.
Yeah.
And anything below that's not economic, so no, I can't. So, it may be that sort of thing, and then that ability then leads on to different ways of thinking and different ways, creative thought along those lines, and then as an organized innovation front, if you like, lots of people start to see this. Lots of people try different things, some of which are good ideas and some of which are not. And it's this sort of incremental